Hi you guys, welcome back. And of course, if you are new to this channel, welcome. My name is Tracy Erickson, and in this video, I will be sharing with you letters from heaven that actually came from my grandma. So stay tuned. Today, I will be sharing with you letters that my grandpa received from my grandma on the other side. And he received these letters through a medium who actually does channeled writing. And of course, my grandpa wasn't 100% in total belief of this type of thing. It only took him to read the letters from my grandma for him to drop the skepticism and to truly believe that these letters came from my grandma. My grandma passed away on October 6th, 2019. And on that following Thanksgiving, so November of 2019, I actually lit a candle in honor of my grandma so that she could be there with us, to celebrate Thanksgiving with the family and everything that we're grateful for. And I even remember at the time, my Aunt Rindy called my grandpa, and I got on the phone with him to wish him a happy Thanksgiving, and I let him know at that time that I had lit a candle in honor of grandma. Now, I don't know if he remembers that, but in these letters in September of 2021, my grandma told my grandpa that she is always with him, to consider her like an angel who's always watching over his shoulder. And if he ever wants to ensure that she is there with him, that he should light a candle in her honor. And I found that to be so sweet that she mentioned that in September 2021 in that letter, because September is also my birth month. So maybe that was like a little message giving even just me confirmation that when I light a candle in her honor, she will be there. So in honor of my grandma, I'm going to light this candle. And now we have the candle lit in her honor. And I'm also going to spray the Call in the Angels high vibration room spray. This is from Tracy's Apothecary. And so this room spray brings your space to a higher vibration with the crystals and the essential oil blend inside. And so I'm going to spray this around as well to kind of set the tone and create that high vibration space so that my grandma can be here with us. This story starts with a very strong synchronicity right from the beginning. So after my grandma died, my grandpa now lives alone all the way over near Las Vegas, when most of the family lives all the way over here in Des Moines, Iowa. And so he was experiencing some loneliness after the passing of my grandma, which is totally expected. And so during that time, my Aunt Janine, who is my dad's sister, decided to send my grandpa a guitar just to give him something else to put his attention on. Because way back in the day, he did used to play the guitar. So my grandpa receives the gift of a guitar, and he went out and found himself an instructor to teach him guitar lessons. So my grandpa begins to learn to play the guitar once again. And over time, he begins to write his very own songs.
I love you still, yes, you're the one. Take my heart, it's yours. You have been from the start the only love I've known. Your sweet embrace is always there as long as our hearts are close. You have been from the start the only love I've known. You pierce my heart through and through. All I need now is to be close to you. I've known the truth for a while. Hold me in your arms. You have been from the start the only love I've known.
And as he gets to know his guitar instructor, Matt, he actually learns a lot more about him. And over time, he learned that Matt is also an astrologer and a psychic medium who is able to communicate through channeled writing with people who have passed away. And according to Matt, he's been communicating with people on the other side from as far back as 4 years old. So he's very versed in communication with the other side. Now, this is where communication with my grandma begins. My grandpa received his first letter from my grandma in June of 2020, and he's been getting a letter every single month since. And at first, he was a little skeptical, but after hearing what Grandma had to say in that very first letter, he knew right away that this guy, this Matt, had to have been communicating with my grandma because in life, he had never met her before. But somehow, these letters actually felt and sounded like they were coming from my grandma. Not only the love that was shared through those letters, not only that, but also her little mannerisms, her sarcasm, and even her favorite pun came in the letter. She called my grandpa a poetic troubadour, a music man, and troubadour is actually one of her favorite puns to use because the troubadour is a very romantic poet. And so now that my grandpa's been writing all this music, she's been calling him a romantic troubadour. It was not only through my grandma's favorite pun, but also just so many things that the letters actually were so authentic, in my grandpa's opinion, that there was no other explanation other than Matt was communicating with my grandma through channeled writing. In the beginning, a lot of my grandma's letters to my grandpa were really to try to help him cope with life now that she's gone. She made sure to reassure him that they will be together again soon enough and that he should just continue to enjoy his new life now without her. She's been pointing out that he spent his entire life working hard to, bring home the security for the family. And his entire life was dedicated to his work. And now that she's gone, he's finally learning to connect with his heart and that inner romantic inside of him, the inner poet. And she is so proud of the fact that he's finally able to let loose, to connect to his heart, and to have a little fun. Now, one thing that he was sure to ask about was my grandma's connection with JFK, so John F. Kennedy. My grandma is actually related by blood as like a distant cousin to John F. Kennedy. And during life, it was always her dream that after she passed, she would want to ask him questions. Now that she's gone, though, my grandpa learned through the letters that once you pass over, the things that you once desired while you were here on earth are just not as important anymore. In fact, my grandma even indicates that you have a much wider vision and a much deeper feeling for things. And a lot of times, verbal communication is not even necessary. Feeling with joy and love is communication enough. In fact, when it comes to the question of, can my grandma speak to JFK over there on the other side, here's exactly what she had to say in one of her letters. She was asked, can you speak to President Kennedy? And she said, I can speak to him, but the individual attributes are actually now overshadowed by the spirit. Does that make sense? What she's trying to say is that the President Kennedy who existed here as we know him is not the same person as the President Kennedy who exists on the other side. Now he is overshadowed by his entire spirit, whereas President Kennedy was an individual lifetime of his spirit. So she said, I realize each and every one is a miracle. So your accomplishments pale in comparison by the life force that we contain. I'm in a place very different than you expect. It's beautiful and we have a lot to look forward to. So according to my grandma, once you're on the other side, you have the entire brilliance of your spirit and an eternity of lifetimes there as well, and wisdom gained from each of those. So what she's saying is that you have your individual accomplishments here in this life, but they pale in comparison by the life force that we contain. So she is trying to explain to us that we have this inner force that is so strong within us, and we don't even realize or recognize how powerful we truly are because we are so engrossed in our individuality, in our ego for this particular lifetime. When it comes to the state of the world, I thought that it was very interesting to see what my grandma had to say about that during the COVID years. So in December 2020's letter, she actually said, things are getting pretty interesting on Earth. The good news is God has it all under control. And I really loved that message that she put, that God has it all under control. Because from our earthly perspective, we become so, we just become so engrossed in what we think is happening, even just what we're told is happening, even if it's not actually affecting us. But then we let it affect us. So anyway, the good news is that God has everything under control, you guys. So we don't even have to know how or why. And again, in April of 2021's letter, my grandma said at the end of that letter that it's peaceful there in heaven and all will be fine. And our Lord has everything in control. So according to heaven's perspective, we really have nothing to worry about here on earth. I can tell that my grandma has a much higher perspective than we do down here. My grandma is continually telling my grandpa in these letters that they will be together soon enough. She continually tells him that they will be spending eternity together. And so that means life goes on after this lifetime. And if you love someone, if you have a connection with their soul, you will be able to spend the rest of eternity with that person whom you love. So it's actually, it's very revealing that from that higher perspective, some of our earthly troubles just don't matter anymore. So the one thing that my grandma said that she was a little sad about is that he didn't find his music while she was here to enjoy it in the physical world with him. But she is so happy that he was able to find his inner poet, his inner troubadour, so that he can now enjoy his life in exciting new ways. She even says it. If I was still there, Jim, you would just be spending all of your time taking care of me, and you would have never found your inner troubadour. I found that to be reassuring confirmation that everything really does happen in its own divine timing. And even if it doesn't make sense at the time that it's happening, in the end, your soul will be guided to learn whatever it needed to learn through that situation. Now, I first talked to my grandpa and took notes about all these letters in January of 2022. And so he called me again in February because he got his letter for the month of February and he received answers to some questions we had discussed in January. So, as we were discussing how great heaven is, my grandpa and I kind of wondered, well, how come she never brings up hell? So why don't we ask Grandma in the next letter, what is hell, or does hell even exist? In the most recent letter that my grandpa told me about from my grandma, it was from the February 2022 letter. Now, my grandpa actually asked, am I wasting my time by producing this music? And he also asked if there is a hell. So, as far as the music is concerned, my grandma said that it's a creative outlet. He's having a lot of fun in the process. And most important part of the music is to enjoy creating the music. So, what grandma is trying to say is that what you see as wasting your time, because maybe it's not producing monetary gains, is actually not a waste of time, because it is a way for you to express your creativity, your individuality. So sometimes, even if we're not being paid to do these things, we are actually getting blessed in other ways. She even says that after saying that the most important part of the music is to enjoy creating it, she said, put your will with God's will, and he will bless you for it. So basically, as long as you are aligning your will with God's will, which is your highest nature, right? Your highest potential. If you align with that, you will be blessed for it. So even if you think it's just frivolously making music, for instance, it's not. Your soul is gaining so much more than you know. Same with me here on YouTube. It's like, I'm not gaining anything being here, but I am able to share my experiences. And it's also helping me to, through sharing those experiences, it helps me to gain more understanding about the spiritual aspects of my life. So I totally understand what she's saying here. Now, about hell, she said it's not exactly how things work around here. And that's exactly what I told my grandpa she might say. So when I talked to him in January 2022, I revealed to my grandpa that I don't believe there really is a hell. That I believe if there is a hell, we are already here while we are in the physical plane. And basically, heaven is where you go. So here's what she said. God loves us unconditionally. She said that accountability comes from the spirit. Okay, so we as humans are at the mercy of our animal impulses, and they are hard to control. So what my grandma is talking about here is your lower self, your ego. So as soon as you're born into a physical body, you are now attached to your lower self. And that lower self has these animal impulses that are hard to control. So whether it's sexuality or addiction or obsessive compulsive behaviors, basically anything that can be an animal impulse. She said God's love helps people to change their ways. So many times a person gains insight, and those insights are God's way to help them out of those darker impulses. Now, she even stated that many times souls will elect to come back again. So what she is also referring to in that point is, to me, it's confirmation that reincarnation is real, because many times souls will elect to come back. All right, so I want to point out again where she said that about hell, that is not exactly how it works around here. God loves us unconditionally, and accountability comes from the individual's spirit. So that's really referring to karma and the fact that there really is no hell. What you're creating is your own experience. So accountability is in the individual's spirit. So what you do in this life, you will hold yourself accountable for when you are in the form of spirit. So it's not necessarily hell in the sense that God sends you there. I would say it's more necessarily, it's like hell in the sense that you send yourself there. So obviously living a more righteous life, one that's aligned with God's will give you the best experience even in the afterlife. So in the end, if you open yourself up to receive spirit, you can even communicate with loved ones who have already passed on. Just remember that they send messages in a multitude of ways. I've told you guys all about it and how to communicate or to receive signs from the other side. So you could receive messages from your loved ones through not only a psychic medium or intuitive. You can receive those messages through numbers. You can receive the messages through animal symbols or through dreams. There are many ways that you can communicate with your loved ones even after they have passed on. And remember, anytime you want to sit with them and talk to them, all you have to do is light a candle in their honor. And maybe even get yourself some of the Call in the Angels high vibration room spray if you want to help to call in your loved ones that way. If you guys want to check out all of the music my grandpa has produced since my grandma passed away, you can find him on any music platform. His name is James Raymond. The album is Country Dreams. And I'll be sure to put the image on the screen for you guys. The image that you see is how you can recognize my grandpa's music from any other James Raymond music out there. And you can find this music on Spotify, on Apple Tunes. You can find it on YouTube and many, many platforms. So be sure to go check it out. Well, that about wraps it up for this video. So if you liked this video, be sure to click that like button and share this video with all your friends out there. And of course, if you're a viewer but not yet a subscriber, I would love for you to click subscribe down below. And once you have subscribed, you can click the notifications bell if you would like to be notified each and every time I upload a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching and spending your time with me. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.